So yesterday, guys, I dropped a news video. Go check it out if you haven't done so already. And the blessing and curse strikes again, more or less when I dropped it. Well, what do you know? We found out the director who is in talks for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, so we're going to go over that. Then we've got some Fantastic Four news. We're going into the Marvel side of things. Some very interesting updates, which is definitely, let's just say, getting the internet to talk. And then we're diving into other places, back into the DCU, going over some Sandman stuff. Even a new DC show, which I don't know if it's getting a lot of attention. Hear my take? Sit down and post your take to my take down in that comment section. So right away here, as per Deadline, Craig Gillespie in talks to direct Supergirl for DC. The plan is for DC to shoot the movie for Q4 after they've completed James Gunn's Superman, which is shooting in Georgia for a July 11th, 2025 theatrical release. DC bosses Gunn and Peter Safran are producing now. Right as of when making this video, I mean, for all I know, things could have changed by the time I post this. We haven't heard anything from Gunn. Now, usually when that's the case with what he said before, even when stuff like this gets out, for example, another story similar to this is actually how we could be, or apparently we are, according to Major Trades again, getting a Teen Titans movie. But we haven't heard about that, you know, because maybe some, you know, finer details of the deal, the dotted line might not have been signed, so to speak, but scoops can still be heard of with stuff like that. You would have to think, though, it would be relatively soon in the grand scheme of things, that is, given that they're saying here that DC Studios is planning to shoot this movie later this year, which also lines up with the information we've been talking about here for a while as well, and with what James Gunn has said over on Threads, that, you know, certain projects have shifted around. I mean, if you look at the original lineup of the Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters YouTube video back in January 2023, granted that it was always subject to change, so to speak, but, you know, it was quite a ways into it. Not like too late into the lineup, but, you know, it wasn't going to come or start shooting right after Superman Legacy, so to speak, but now it is. Now it is. And you know, Waller, for example, is no longer a Peacemaker Season 1.5. It is now releasing after Peacemaker Season 2. So things are changing, and it makes you think if Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is now going to be low-key the next movie in the DCU. Now, the reason why I say that is you've got Superman, right? And then the next theatrical movie to start filming is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, not The Authority as of right now. I mean, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, we've heard lots of behind-the-scenes things about. They've been getting, you know, the train tracks really ready to go for that train to start hurtling towards the shooting date, and now we're hearing that, yeah, it's true. Like, this project is getting underway later this year. Millie Alcock's been cast. The Authority, I mean, other than the engineer, and I don't know, for all I know, maybe another surprise character or two from The Authority. That's just me speculating, by the way, appearing in Superman Legacy. I did it again. Trust me, I don't know why I'm having such difficulty with that. I think, given that I make content on this channel saying that name over and over again for the past God knows how long, it's just wired into my brain. But what I'm trying to say is we haven't even got really The Authority underway, and that was technically the second movie in the DCU Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters lineup to happen, with Lanterns, the first Max DCU TV series, to happen in between them. But now it could be Superman, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and then maybe The Authority movie. Now, let me rein this back. What do I think about this? I think it's good. I mean, I will be fully transparent here. I haven't seen all of his work. I mean, obviously, you've got I, Tonya, but then you've got Cruella. There's mixed things about that. Then, actually, another one that is apparently slept on is Dumb Money, which is one of his more recent projects. But I'm going to change that. I'm going to absorb a lot of his previous work, and, you know, I'm annoyed that I haven't done so already. But from what I'm gathering, people do seem to be happy with this, almost unexpected in a way, but not in a bad way, other than I see a lot of people kicking up a fuss that, you know, perhaps a female director should be directing Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I guess let me know what you think about that. But we actually do have a quote from Craig Gillespie when he was talking and asked by, I believe, the YouTube channel Nestor Scene about getting into a comic book movie, and actually something that Warner Brothers could be doing. And it seems to be from his comment here that he was originally thinking of going in a bit of a different direction. So he says, absolutely, but interestingly, it's like very much more, you know, there is a darker side, obviously, to some of the stuff that I'm attracted to, and particularly with the Warner Brothers work that's going on with Joker and the Penguin. And I like these superhero villains that are based in reality. They have their human foils, and I'm more attracted to that kind of genre, but I would love to be diving into something like that down the line. Now, some people are kind of thinking, okay, well, he said this, but maybe the scripts that Ana Nogueira wrote and the one that James Gunn boasted about back in November, maybe that script is so good that he's thinking, damn, I actually do really want to tackle this. And not only that, I think the main thing here is, even though this isn't Joker or the Penguin and kind of, you know, exactly what he was saying there with that quote, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow does get into a bit of a different kind of Kara, and maybe that is exactly what caused a little glint in Craig Gillespie's eye, so to speak. Because as James Gunn said himself about the DCU's Kara, that this is a more up version of Supergirl, literally, in the story they're going to tell here. And you guys know what I mean if you know Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the story, but I do think maybe, given his comments, that's what still attracted him to tackling a film like this. So let me know what you think of this. Let me know your favorite film by Craig Gillespie down in the comments. I've got a bit of homework to be doing myself. But now we need to move into the Fantastic Four, because we have a very interesting story here, and we're going to dive back into, obviously, DC again, but this one is a very big story. Deadline are reporting here that the Fantastic Four, Julia Garner, joins Marvel Studios movie as Shalla-Bal version of Silver Surfer. Now, again, lots of people, oh man, especially if you're in the public town square of Twitter and just, I guess, the internet in general, like, the MCU! The MCU! Now, look, I mean, I can't, like, blindly jump into a defensive, but I do have thoughts. Now, what I will say, well, let me read the first paragraph out first. With the 4 actors set to play the iconic members of the super team, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four now has its sights set on who will play Silver Surfer, and it looks like they're going with one of the town's biggest rising stars. And yes, Julia Garner, I think she is an exceptional talent. I have seen Ozark, and if you've seen Ozark, you know what I mean. She is just incredible. Like, genuinely, she is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So my first reaction to this is, of course, like, oh, okay, that's interesting with regards to Silver Surfer, because just like most people's reactions with this, you're kind of like, hey, isn't Silver Surfer like, But then I'm also like, oh, but Julia Garner, she's awesome. So, like, you know, there's that. But the thing is, with what a lot of people, I think, don't know so much with regards to Silver Surfer, is that, yes, you technically do have Norrin Radd's love interest, which is this character. And yes, in a particular series, the Earth X series, and I had to familiarize myself with this before making this video, you do actually have not only Norrin, but also Shalla-Bal here imbued with the power cosmic, and thus they both became the heralds of Galactus. Now, it's important to bear in mind here that with that version, it is the Franklin Richards version of Galactus, which is now making people think, okay, well, with this Fantastic Four, with Pedro Pascal and everything like that, are we actually going to be going to the direction of the Franklin Richards version of Galactus? But this is where everything gets a bit kind of twisty-timey weirdness, because obviously, you know, people are even thinking, okay, what is going on with this Fantastic Four movie? Because, you know, there's rumors with how, you know, not only is it going to be set in the 1960s, and there's a lot of clues for that as of when this was announced, of course, but in how it's actually not set in the MCU's universe, but by the end of the movie, you're going to actually have them enter the mainstream MCU. But then, like, the rumor of them facing off against this Galactus and then escaping into the new reality of the MCU, to me, that just seems like, oh, so it's not even like the MCU's Galactus, like their old universe has just now been doomed, but they've now popped into the MCU. I don't know. Obviously, a lot of that is rumory right now, but it's important to note, guys, no matter what, with this report with Julia Garner here starring as the Shalla-Bal version of the Silver Surfer, they are stressing that it's not Norrin Radd. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, no matter what actually does turn out to be the case and what does come to fruition out of these rumors, it does imply that this is just a version and that Norrin Radd's Silver Surfer is still very much so intact, and we shouldn't. And I do want to say, I do like to choose to go into things like this with good faith. Now, you may call me naive or a bit of an idiot or whatever. Okay, like, I mean, I'll still evaluate it for what it is when, you know, I see the product. But I'm just saying, hey, this could be a plan for something that's still eventually, in some way or another, introduces Norrin Radd. Norrin Radd could still be there. I know things are usually flipped around a little bit in the conventional version with how Norrin, you know, becomes the Silver Surfer, and Shalla-Bal and his relationship is kind of like a coming together, pulling apart, coming together, pulling apart thing. She's normally somewhat left behind while Norrin Radd goes off to, you know, do his work and be the herald of Galactus as the Silver Surfer. But who knows? As I always say, adaptations aren't copy and paste. Now, I need to insist when you hear me say that doesn't mean you should deviate. As I always say, innovate, but don't deviate so much that you alienate the fans. Now, some of you may say, well, this is already alienating me, but then I would ask you to reel in your freaking fishing rod, man. And the reason for that is, what if they're doing something where, like, you know, literally Norrin Radd is still the Silver Surfer? For all we know, Julia Garner Shalla-Bal's version of this Silver Surfer may be unique to the universe that the Fantastic Four will escape from. I don't know. Or, like, maybe they're both hanging about, you know, Norrin Radd and Shalla-Bal here, and they're both heralds, and maybe she dies in the movie. And do you see what I mean? We just don't know. And I think that there's a bigger part to this story that we're just not aware of right now. I think she is an amazing talent, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they tackle this. I think I'm more fascinated with them entering the MCU and kind of, because I want them in the main MCU, like, let me stress that, I do. I almost don't like the concept of this rumor of how it's like, what, do they just abandon their whole previous reality and Galactus goes and munches everything that they ever knew in the other... I don't know, so I want to know how that all works out. But speaking of Galactus, ladies and gentlemen, the writer of this Deadline article did say in a tweet that it seemed obvious given the Silver Surfer involvement, but yes, Galactus expected to be the main villain, and that role is currently open with no one in talks or holding offer for the role. Which is interesting because, you know, there's so many things I can say about this as well, because people are like, oh my god, like, so they're just shoving Silver Surfer and Galactus in the first movie and some other rumored big characters, oh my god, maybe this is a bit too much for the first thing. Granted, I do get what people are saying there, maybe you should build it up to something like that, but I guess maybe they want to perhaps use that as an excuse for as to how they even get over to the MCU's universe. Again, I know I keep saying it, I don't know, but this is what I mean when you're only going off rumors. We have to kind of get a little bit more before you maybe start to judge a little bit of a concept there. But the Galactus, nobody in talks or holding offer for a role, a lot of people are still thinking that Javier Bardem could still end up being, as per the rumors, Lisan al Galactus. People are saying that, and I get why, because for the longest time, obviously the current cast members that we've got for Fantastic Four were mentioned ages ago, and it was spot on so many times. So people are starting to think, okay, well, Javier Bardem was, you know, mentioned for the longest time. Will he still end up being said Galactus, or whatever, you know, version of Galactus, as per what I was saying earlier, that we get for this movie? Maybe, but Justin Kroll here, the writer of Deadline, is, I guess, being insistent that nobody's in talks or holding an offer, so maybe not. We're going to have to wait and see ultimately, but I think that would be a very interesting casting. I think he's amazing. And I just, you know, for now, I'm going to have to hope for the best for this movie. I'm not saying that in like a, you know, apprehensive, well, maybe a bit of apprehension. I think a lot of people are apprehensive about the future of the MCU. There's a lot of, you know, optimism because like, oh yeah, you know, hopefully Secret Wars will slap, Deadpool 3, you know, Fantastic Four, you know, they've got a real chance to turn the MCU around with this, and then Mutants, you know, now thanks to Production Weekly, as of I think today or like yesterday, there's this untitled X-Men reboot that's been spotted on the page, as you're seeing on screen right now, slated for a production of, I think, the fall of 2025. So, you know, there is optimism, but I think apprehension because people want the MCU to kind of get back that momentum. And all while some of you may believe that there's just no chance they can ever get to the old days. And I do see what you're saying there. There is definitely a chance of a new form of momentum. Like, with new additions, you could really draw in a whole new, somewhat story that really snowballs into fans wanting to see, hey, I loved Fantastic Four, I want to see the next one. I want to see what happens now with the X-Men, because that first edition of the MCU's version slaps so hard. Do you know what I mean? So there is always potential there, but it has to be handled correctly. Let's hope Fantastic Four is handled correctly, despite people outroaring or roaring about Julia Garner's version of the Silver Surfer. I would say be patient until we know for sure what the heck is going on there. There's some ideas, obviously, with the source material as mentioned, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, in some other news here, before we dive back into the realm of DC, we are getting a new Matrix, apparently. So, from Discussing Film here saying, Drew Goddard is set to write and direct a new Matrix movie. Now, guys, I grew up, I was born in 94. I grew up with these Matrix movies releasing, and they were just like alongside, I consider myself very lucky growing up in a time of The Matrix, freaking Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars prequels, say what you will, but like, I was a Anakin simp when I was a kid. It was just, amazing. Now, shoot forward to present day, we kind of got the Matrix Resurrections, which, if I check here, the entire worldwide box office run, $159.2 million. My God, that is, that is not good. Now, we're going to be getting another one? Now, this actually kind of links with DC in a way, because Drew Goddard was rumored, I believe Jeff Snyder said this, to be directing a DCU movie, and I think it was The Authority. Now, if he's kind of tackling this, maybe the reason of what we've talked about already in this video with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow being brought forward, and how I'm speculating that Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is now, if they're still planning to have Lanterns in between, or if it's maybe Peacemaker Season 2, this is what I mean, it could now be Creature Commandos, Superman, then Peacemaker Season 2, and then Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, rather than it being Superman and Lanterns and then The Authority. See what I mean with how things may have actually switched up quite a bit with the, release order there. Now, Drew Goddard, if we never had it confirmed, he is a part of, like, the architectural team, I believe. He may have just written it, but, like, again, there's that rumor of him directing The Authority, but now if he's tackling the new Matrix, well, I think it could line up with what I've been saying already. And he still might, go on to direct the Authority movie. It's just maybe not a priority anymore. Going back to the Matrix thing, look, I don't know what to think about it, but I think maybe the last movie, just people didn't show up for it, which makes me wonder about the, passion in the general audience for this kind of IP. And, I think a lot of people are expressing, well, if the Wachowskis don't have anything to do with it, then, is it going to be any good if Drew Goddard is writing and directing it? I'm not saying it won't be good, but people kind of want it to be beholden to, like, the original kind of, writing. But then again, so was Resurrections, and that didn't turn. I mean, I've seen that movie, and look, I'm a Keanu Reeves stan myself, and, but that last movie, there's ideas I like about it, but it just didn't, quite do it for a lot of people as well as me. So I don't know where the future's going to go with this. I mean, technically, the concept of that, universe, it could really greenlight a billion sequels with The Matrix and how the story unfolds there. It's interesting reading this, given the $159.2 million box office, and they're like, yeah, let's do another one. Let's go. I don't know. Either way, like, I would be excited to see that trailer release. Again, I'm a big fan of the films, and it is what it is, but I just thought it was a cool link to tie to what we've also heard in relation to DC and how it actually fits in with the new, refreshed, low-key, unofficial release order. Now diving into a little bit of DCU stuff here, I found this one interesting because I kind of wanted to reopen the conversation of what we had a little while ago with regards to the VFX of Superman, and that got brought up quite a bit with regards to the set photos of the engineer. Now, I'm not going to show them here just for those people who don't really want to know anything. Not that there's really any spoilers, but there was a bit of hoo-ha given that the engineer was wearing this black suit. It wasn't just a motion capture suit like some people were thinking. Now, it does have a few dots on it that you can use as reference points for tracking and whatnot. But a lot of people were freaking out saying, oh my god, she's not going to resemble the comic version. But I was saying, hey, you know, I do think there will be CGI applied to her. I mean, obviously, you know, with her somewhat Terminator 2-esque form of powers and weapons, you know, that's going to happen. And now DC Film News here said, James Gunn confirms Industrial Light and Magic, Weta FX, and Framestore will be working on the VFX for Superman. And there's a screenshot here from Threads where Gunn replied to a fan, of course, Steph Soretti is one of my most trusted confidants, and he knows what's happening with our movies every step of the way, not to mention our amazing partners at Framestore, Weta FX Official, and ILM VFX. Now, this brought up a very interesting question that I'd already taken for my discussion series that I'm doing soon, but I'm now going to put it here because this user, MilkShakePod, said, go look at the behind the scenes for the special effects of The Creator. It's an award-winning film for special effects, and they did post-effects in a very unorthodox way, where there's very little MCU-style effects. That's the exact company he brought on for Superman. She'll 1000% look different, as they took dozens of humans with no VFX set up in filming and made them look like robots. Their set design is also insane. So yeah, ILM worked on The Creator, and The Creator was very much so recognized for his VFX. And I just wanted to bring this up because since it was being talked about a little bit more with regards to the VFX team behind Superman, I don't really have much of a hesitancy of believing of how hard they're going to go on this movie. I mean, you know, Gunn has already talked on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast about how there's going to be an aesthetic scene for Metropolis or just Superman that's, well, never been seen before, actually. And then, like, you know, when you have a lot of people just looking at the engineer's set photos when she was in that harness within that black suit, people are thinking, oh god, she's just going to wear a suit the whole time. Now, don't get me wrong, they might change some things. For example, you know, I don't think they're going to adapt the whole... Well, they might actually, but in the comics, she's quite literally naked. Her kind of chrome engineered liquid nanite metal takes over her skin to the point of where, as you're seeing on screen right now, when she starts to get rid of it, well, let's just say she needs to put on a bathrobe very, very quickly. Now, I don't think you're going to have Maria Gabriela de Faria like that in public when she's in this harness here, like kind of floating. So I do think that they're going to kind of, you know, somewhat, you know, CGI over that to an extent, and this might be something she wears to kind of, you know, still get kids to go see this movie, basically. But that doesn't mean she's not going to have liquid nanite metallic Terminator 2 Neo in the Matrix styled skin kind of thing that you're seeing on screen right now. And this, you know, recognition of Superman's VFX being discussed recently as per DC Film News and James Gunn just made me want to bring that up again and, you know, let me know what you think of that. To finish off this video, in the realm of DC, but on the Sandman side of things, we have a little bit of a Season 2 update from what's on Netflix. Now, you guys know how much I love the Sandman here. Neil Gaiman, mwah, amazing. The Sandman, go see it if you haven't already. Very much so covered it on this channel if you're interested in those old-ish videos. They're not really old, but it's kind of crazy to think how long it's been since August 2022 when The Sandman came out. We've been waiting a while for Season 2, even though they're not calling it Season 2. But we have some episode titles here, such as The Song of Orpheus. Obviously, if you know the story of Orpheus, but also how that relates to Sandman, it's going to be a very, I think, one of my most anticipated episodes. More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Hold, referencing a issue of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Brief Lives, named after the issue of the same name. Family Blood, likely referencing spilling family blood, something Dream seeks to avoid. The Ruler of Hell, another very anticipated episode, referencing Gwendolyn Christie's Lucifer, or perhaps Hell will have a new ruler. We won't spoil, and yeah, that would get quite spoilery, but if you've read The Sandman, you know exactly what will be happening there, especially when there's another episode title here saying Season of Mists, named after the comic collection of the same name. Previously mentioned Odin, Thor, and Loki are most likely to appear in this episode. Absolutely. It's kind of, for those who are wondering, wait, they're covering Season of Mists as well. Think how Season 1 also had the Dollhouse in it, not only Preludes and Nocturnes. So very, 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 very hyped about this. I don't know how many people made it to this point of the video, but hopefully some Sandman fans did. And, you know, we're getting a little bit more here and there. And also, speaking of the Sandman universe, we just got a new trailer for the Dead Boy Detectives. Now, what I think is a shame with regards to the Dead Boy Detectives is that I don't think it gets a lot of attention. You know, this trailer released yesterday, it's barely just broke 200,000 views, or it's about to when making this video. It is set in the Sandman universe. There was a report quite a long time ago with how the Dead Boy Detectives moved from HBO Max to Netflix because it was meant to be like a spin-off of Doom Patrol originally in its initial conception, because there was a backdoor pilot for the Dead Boy Detectives in DC Universe's Max's Doom Patrol, but then they changed it because, as it says here in the report, producers Warner Brothers Television shopped the drama after sources say the series didn't fit with a new chapter of content that DC executives James Gunn and Peter Safran are building from the comic powerhouse. So yeah, like, they don't want new DC shows per se launching on Max, when from here on out, you know, especially after Superman and Lois has ended, anything on Max is like, hey, here's Lanterns connected to the DCU, Creature Commandos, DCU canon, Booster Gold, etc., etc. They're all canonical to David Corenswet's Superman. But over on Netflix, you have your own little microverse here, an Elseworlds universe, if you will, of the Sandman. Like, you have the Batman and Joker, but it's under the umbrella of Netflix. And Dead Boy Detectives has joined the ranks there. And you do have one of the Endless from the Sandman, Kirby Howell Baptiste's death, appearing in this show for obvious reasons. Dead Boy Detectives, they're kind of running away from death. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. If you guys want me to cover it on the channel, I will definitely be interested in doing that. I hope that it does well, but a lot of people in the comments are concerned, hey, is this going to get renewed? It does seem like a product of, as I said, like, while it was kind of greenlit, this is in between that time of when James Gunn and whatnot came in, regimes changed, directions changed. Okay, you can go over to Netflix, you can, oh wait, you know, it kind of low-key makes sense, make it part of the Sandman universe. But there's also not a massive rally behind it, but that's not necessarily condemning, because if it launches on Netflix, it's advertised as such, people start watching it, it could do very, very, very well. But as we know, Netflix has like an insanely high bar and a unique kind of method of, you know, showing the value of a show. It's not actually all about viewership, it's about how many people subscribe during that period to also watch Dead Boy Detectives, which is why, despite how popular this Sandman was on Netflix, people were concerned, and it wasn't announced for ages that we were getting more episodes. So Dead Boy Detectives, people are noticing how it's not getting a bunch of kind of oomph behind it from people, and thinking, is this kind of like a one-off limited series, even though it's set in the Sandman universe? And it's way too early to say that, of course. This is just me kind of, you know, addressing what people are saying out there. But I like the look of it. Do you like the look of it? Did you watch the Sandman? Did you know that this was even in that universe, and that death from the Sandman's going to be in it? But that more or less wraps up everything I want to talk about in today's video. I know it was a super long one, but there was a lot of stories that I wanted to get into. So, let me know what you thought of everything down in the comments below, but I'd really appreciate a like if you got this far. It just lets YouTube know, hey man, like, we're gonna promote this video out to other people's homepage, and, you know, it will help this video grow a little bit more, the channel. And you can also help the channel grow by subscribing. Double check that red subscribe button, just in case you haven't clicked it already. You may think you have, but you might not have. But until next time, I'm gonna love you and leave you. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.